said once I got everything sorted, I was going to give you a quick rundown of what I do and how I keep myself in alignment, because what happens is I get all overwhelmed, really, and that's part of being human. We take on a lot, or we have a lot going on, and when we look at the bigger picture, it's almost like, wow, like all that is really going on. How do I have time for that, and time for me, and time for what's needed to be done? So we take time to just bring ourselves back to centre, and this is how I help my clients, but it's also what I do myself. I practice this myself, because when I have a scattergun approach, so I put all my energy into, say, one thing, it's just on that thing and everything else misses out. And when I just shoot off and put my energy all over the place, then I'm not honouring my truth, and I'm wasting my energy and my time. So what I like to do is always start by just having a quick meditation, where I just bring myself to centre, and then I'm ready to continue with a clear head. Because while we're busy doing, our head's all over the place and we get interrupted. So it's better to tune ourselves in to centre and only then move forward, because then we can move forward with a bit more clarity, and we're back in our bodies, so we're feeling our way into what we need to do, instead of coming from a place of doing. So I review every 2 to 3 months, and I say 2 to 3 months because if we did it daily, we'd drive ourselves nuts. And if we do it any less than 2 months, so every 1 month or so many weeks, it wouldn't give us long enough to create a habit. A habit takes 21 days to build. So we need to be able to get out of our old habit and rebuild a new habit, or build a new healthy habit. So my old habit would be applying my old core values, but core values can change daily, but our main core values do hang on and sit with us for a while, but it's important we apply them into our daily lives and every aspect of life. So if we have every 2 to 3 months, it kind of works out about right. It's almost like we review each season. Now, core values help take us to who we really are. Now, when we just do our core values and we just simply sit and go, oh yeah, these 3 things are what appeals to me and how I believe that I live my life, what we do is we miss going into our subconscious self, and we miss the whole opportunity to be authentic. We're being who we think we should be, which is often the product of our conditioning. So to be able to skip around that, I have a way where I get people to, including myself, and I come up with 10. I try to aim for 10. Some people try and have more when we start, but I always say try for 10, maybe 11. When it starts getting to like 14, 15, it takes longer, but we do get there in the end. But the longer the list is, the more complex it is to try and tune in to the 3. But once we get there, we're good. Sometimes we can have 4, but we really try and aim for the 3. So we basically have a special method, or I have a special method of narrowing down our larger list of core values to the direct 3. So for this next 3 months, say, this next I won't call it a season because I've not done it seasonally. My core values, I'm just looking for them now, have been honesty, resourcefulness, and compassionate. So I want to live my life with honesty, resourcefully, and with compassion. So I will now try and make sure that everything in my life aligns with those three core values. So to be able to apply my core values, I ask myself questions many times a day. I'm sure you do too. And the first thing is I ask myself a question and I feel into the answer. And sometimes I have an answer straight away. And I really feel that answer in my body and it really resonates with me. Now, if at any point in the question or after I've asked myself the question, do I feel some kind of resistance or feel a bit unsure, then I start to apply my core values and I ask, is this in alignment, what I would like to achieve? Is it in alignment with my core values? And why? And I look into each word of the core values and really tune into what's my truth regards the question and the answer. This helps me reach the outcome. I then like to get a bit more specific as well, because regards life, I devised a thing called the Wheel of I, and it's based on a yoga nidra practice. Now, the Wheel of I is where we kind of have us as the wheel, and we're split up into different segments of the wheel, using, say, the spokes, and each piece of the wheel is representative of a piece of our life, as a piece of us, a part of us. So we have like families and friends and hobbies and health, and work. Everything's on there that's important. And then we look at each aspect and feel into where we're at on the wheel. And we give ourselves a score, really, between 0 and 10. I won't give you too much information because I prefer to do this with a client, because there's things I can pick up on that help guide rather than the person just going through it and getting confused. So especially when there's like unsureness, unclarity, I really help to tune in on that and bring it out. You can't do that when you're on your own. So he's a very happy boy this morning, is our Eric, isn't he, with his shouting. So the Wheel of I look at all the aspects of my life and where I'm lacking in life. So where I've given it a score that's not in balance with, say, the other things in my life, I know that's where I need to put more work in. So I look at my life, I work out where I need to put the work in, and I look at how these aspects of my life are in alignment with my core values and what I need to do to change that, so that I can have a much happier, healthier life. And then once that's done, I create my routine. Now, routines are really good, but we can't be too rigid in our routines because it'll send us daft and we'll end up criticising ourselves for all sorts of things when things don't go right. So it's kind of a rough routine. And I write my times of day, so I'll start at like 100 hours and I'll work up to 2400 hours using the 24-hour clock. And then I'll mark out each hour. And then I'll write down the times, rough times, when I have to do the essential things in a day hello ducky, which is usually eat, sleep and work. Now, those are 3 things that most of us have to do on most days. And it's possible that if you have a day off, or, you know, you have a different rough routine for those days. A rough routine is a guide for the day, and you don't have to be at it, you know, meticulously, but you have to make the effort to kind of stick in it. When you're thinking about, I'm going to eat at 12 o'clock, say, eating at 12 o'clock is, excuse me, rather specific, but you're forgetting that to eat you have to prepare the food, then you have to cook the food, and then you have to eat the food, and then you should let it settle. When we're just throwing food into our mouths and then going about our day, we're not enjoying the food, we're not enjoying the process of preparing or cooking or even eating, and then we're going on, not even letting it settle in our bodies. Oh, this isn't fair. This is unkind to ourselves. And the kindest thing we can do is allocate enough time in the day to allow ourselves time to, say, get the stuff out that we want to make porridge, say, and cut the banana and enjoy the process. So we can be there with the banana, with the knife, slicing it. We could be there stirring the porridge in the saucepan and enjoying the stirring, the swirls and the patterns and the bubbles and the sounds and the whole experience making porridge, which is an utter delight when we allow ourselves time to do that. So when we allow ourselves, say, half an hour in the morning to eat our breakfast, which includes preparing it, eating it, and then letting it settle. So preparing it, cooking it, eating it and letting it settle. Half an hour for me is usually a really good time. So I would put that into my rough routine. So I would allocate half an hour at a set time, and that then gives me playtime. And what you find is when you sit down eventually after preparing and enjoying the porridge, and you sit there and maybe you look at the watch or the phone and you're like, well, I've got like an extra 15-20 minutes here to just be and really let breakfast settle before I move on to the next thing, and I'm not in any rush and it's beautiful. Then life starts to get some more enjoyment and more pleasure where you hadn't allowed time for the pleasure to arise before. So it's really important to look at what you need to do. For me, most of you know I walk Bear twice a day. And when I walk Bear, it's at specific times, because otherwise he gets very upset. And he's in training and he's new to me and I'm new to him. So to be able to meet each other and compromise at a set time of day, each day, we go for our wander. So that goes into my rough routine, as well as breakfast, dinner and tea. Now, I don't put, because I'm self-employed, I don't put work in there straight away, because I don't have set working hours. So I usually put in the eat and sleep bit first, and then feel into, is there anything else that I need to do? So for me, I need to walk Bear at set times, and I need to feed the animals at set times, because when they eat is relative to when they lay eggs, how they spend their day, and how they go to the toilet. Especially the dogs. The dogs have to rest for an hour after they eat, and then they usually go to the toilet. So it's really good to have the walk an hour after we eat. So this goes into my rough routine. Obviously we're all different, but I allow time to within my day for rest and recovery, for self-care, for work. And as things go on and you add things that you need to do, you actually need to do, like the eat and sleep, and then the walk the dog, or everything else then reveals itself to you and kind of allocates itself a time that's in alignment with your core values, because you're being true to yourself. So once you've got all these things sorted, you can then work out maybe where you'd like to put your sadhana. Sadhana is kind of your daily practice, and we should all have some form of daily practice because it helps us to tune into ourselves. So even if our daily practice is for 2 minutes or 5 minutes in the morning after the alarm goes off, if we have an alarm in the morning, that moment, those moments, those minutes of just breathing into life really make a difference. They help us tune in back to our centre and also keep our days in alignment with our core values. I'd also like to mention social media, because it can be like an addiction. And with social media, we need to allocate time to stay healthy. So we can make a choice. We can maybe choose to go on it during working hours, which depends. If you're working through social media, then that's not so bad. But social media is often a hobby, and it can take up a lot of our time and effort. So if we allocate a realistic time, so we're being realistic in this time that, you know, maybe I'm going to go on just before bed, or I'm going to go on at this time in the morning, or whatever. This meets, well, it sits nicely with the rough routine, and it meets the specifications for the core values, and it helps keep a healthy habit, instead of getting drawn in and then being stuck just living on social media, which isn't good for anyone, because it's a virtual world where although we're getting to connect, it's not real true connections. It can develop and become a real true connection with people, but really it's all very face value kind of thing, whereas in real life connections are like me and the ducks and me and the dogs, where we're actually spending time together, loving each other, sharing space and exploring how life is with each other. So for me and the ducks, we like to just sit together and just watch, just be, you know. Or we like to share food, same with the chickens and the dogs. We all like to share food. There's so many different things where if we just take time to just slow down and be, we can appreciate our place in the world and how our place fits in with others.